Or what do you want your special teams unit or your units to be known for?
I want us to be fast, violent, and physical.
They call me the Iceman.
I tried to make the world shrink to about a 3 yard by 3 yard little spot. I couldn't even really see the front line in front of me. It was my holder and me and my few little steps.
For you guys that may know Brett but don't know, I mean, the guy knows what he's talking about.
Man, y'all order my dog's book, man. The Kicker's Bible.
Roll another one 'cause I'm winning in my photo.
Welcome, specialists, coaches, dads of kickers, moms of punters, and dogs that chat kickoffs to the Iceman Podcast. It's the show with cold questions and even cooler guests. And I am your host, as always, Brett Arkelian. I'm joined today by my good friend and one of the rising stars in coaching, Blair Cavanaugh. Blair, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it, Brett. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, a little bit about you, Blair, before we get too into it. Yeah, so we're lucky and blessed, right? Because today we got, not only was he a phenomenal coach, but was a player, okay? Wide receiver at Oregon State. He was a scout team player of the year, participated in not one, but two bowl games, the Alamo Bowl and the Hawaii Bowl. His coaching career, he's been in a couple different places, spent time at Nebraska, at Syracuse, where he was an analyst. They ranked first in the ACC in total special teams and fifth nationally in 2020. Blair's coached two All-American specialists, 3 All-Conference, and 1 Lou Groza Award winner. 2 punters in the NFL, Sterling Hofreichter with the Tampa Bay Bucks and Nolan Cooney with the Arizona Cardinals. He also spent time at Ball State and now is the special teams coordinator at Incarnate Word. So very impressive for a very short career, Blair. What, talk a little bit. We always start with the heavy hitter section, okay? Talk a little bit about what is your why and why did you get into the coaching profession in the first place?
Yeah, what is my why? I think it's all about the relationships with your players. My dad's a coach, and I got to see those relationships, that are kind of lifelong deals, not just that short period of time that the student athletes are there, but those relationships that last a lifetime. And just being able to see how special those are was what really wanted to make me get into coaching. And it's been special and it's been awesome. And I feel like I already have a bunch of those relationships built with my guys from the schools that I've been at in the past so far.
That's really cool. And it's really cool too. I kind of like to talk about how we met or relationships that way too. And I was at Virginia Tech and, my head was spinning and up comes this, from a whirlwind of a season. I think you guys Syracuse came to visit Virginia Tech later. Was it later in the season?
It was later in the season, yeah.
7th, 8th game. And there were already chants of Fire Fuente going on in the stadium in pregame. And so we were a little bit on edge, but it was good just getting to know Blair and talking to him, another guy that kind of looked like me, a redheaded special teams guy. And really, Syracuse is that game was what kind of knocked us out or got us officially fired. So thank you for that. No, that was good. I do remember blocking a kick that was in that game. That fired us up. But knowing about the success that you guys had there. I know you guys had an NFL special teams coordinator too. Talk a little bit about that experience, your time that you spent at Syracuse and what you learned there.
Yeah. So my time at Syracuse was awesome. Got to work for a good head guy and Dino Babers, and then Justin Lustig was the special teams coordinator the 2 years that I was at QC under him, and he's one of the best in the business. So just being able to be a sponge and absorb everything from him that I could was awesome. And then just being able to the specialists that we had there and the core special teams guys that we had and the buy-in was just so special, and it made it fun to go to work every day, just being around guys that are future pro specialists, and then just the guys that were core 4 guys for us too were super special guys, and made it a bunch of fun to go to work every day.
Yeah, there's no question, especially when you're around all that elite talent and see their mannerisms and how they carry themselves. You carry that as a coach, right? And you're like, hey, this is what the standard is. And if you want to play at the next level, here it is. What was
Yeah,
one thing
absolutely.
that Coach Lustig, also friend of the pod, he came
That's
on,
right.
you hit me up about that, or season 3 actually last year.
That's right. That's my guy.
That he's awesome, man. Actually, a quick little story about Coach Lustig there. I was in Nashville last year, I guess. I used to live in the Nashville area, coach high school football and teach in the area. And I was like, hey, coach, you mind if I come by and talk shop with you? This is actually the day before he came on the pod. He's like, yeah, sure. I was just super impressed with how like down to earth, easy to talk to he is. He didn't know me from freaking, aboard. I was having an interview soon. I was like, hey, do you mind if I like, compare notes and tell me what you think? He's like, yeah, sure. Come on. We had like an hour and a half conversation.
Nice.
So just that, willingness to kind of take me aside and talk with me is freaking sweet. What was one thing you talked about the connection, how special it was being on that staff and working with some of those players, the buy-in he created, what was one way he did that? What's an example of how he did that?
I think he was just his authentic self, and showed that he cared about it, and I think that was a big thing of guys buying into the program. Just if you put your all into it and you're authentic and you're the same person every day, you're gonna create good buy-in with that. And then the other thing too is just making it important. I think that creates huge buy-in, which he did a good job of there, and which I've tried to, emulate and steal and do the same thing here.
Yeah, I like that. I always like saying that, and especially we've been in a couple different places ourselves, like taking whatever we find and not exactly stealing it, but kind of crafting it into our own thing.
Yeah, you
Being
kind of make it your own.
yeah, the core belief is there, and then we throw our own spin on things, which I'm sure that's kind of how you did it too. Did he?
Yeah.
Do you have like a certain way to make it important to them? Did he show like, hey, this is special teams players playing the NFL level, or how these traits carry over from offense to defense?
Yeah, the big one there was, he would show Zaire Franklin, who started off at Syracuse, played on all the special teams there, and then ended up at the Indianapolis Colts and became the special teams captain for them. Now is one of their starting linebackers, and I think a few years ago was up there in the league in tackles. But showing clips of him, and then would ask him to, hey, send our guys a little message about the importance of special teams. So then show a video clip of him talking. But I think the guys seeing a guy that was at your alma mater do it, and then not only do it but do it at the highest level, was an example that he would use to show our guys there of the success that you needed and the work ethic that you needed to get to where you want to be.
Absolutely. And I'm sure they really connected with that because they're like, hey, that's one of us. That's a
Yeah.
guy that was sitting these exact same seats. Coach Baxter actually told us a story of that. And that kind of reminds me, David Perales was a defensive end at Fresno State. And even that same thing, it's like, hey, even if you were a stud at your current school or at a, ACC school or Mountain West school, once you get to that next level, everyone plays special teams.
Yeah,
No matter
exactly.
what your position. Like even this defensive end was like, Coach, I've had to get in on all these punt return drills and punt stuff that he didn't do here. I wish I'd done it more when I
Yeah.
was at Fresno State. So just like you're talking about, it's the same thing.
Yeah, and I think just being able to show them. And another cool thing with too is like you'd see them in the Syracuse clips doing the drills, and then the drills correlating to the games, and and then you're like, oh, that guy's doing that for the Colts now.
Yeah.
That made it special and pretty cool.
Drills of the games.
Drills
Exactly.
of the games, baby.
That's freaking awesome. All right, so let's rewind a little bit. Let's pull it back. All right, you talked a little bit about your childhood and growing up with a dad who was a coach. Kind of take us, for everyone else listening here, what was your path of where you lived, and talk to us about that life of being the son of a college coach. It sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, it was awesome. I wouldn't change the world for it. So both my parents are from Connecticut originally. At the time we moved 9 times. I think it's way more than that now. But we started off in Connecticut, and then we moved to Michigan. He worked at a few schools there, Alma College and Fair State, and then got a job with the Chargers in San Diego at the time. He was a quality control guy there. And then we moved to Hawaii. He was the offensive line coach at the University of Hawaii for June Jones. And, we were there for a while. Went to all of elementary school there, which was freaking awesome. And
Blair, before we get too far into that,
yeah,
talk to us a little bit about that Hawaii experience, because you were there when freaking Hawaii was rocking, right? You were there during the time where I remember being a Fresno State fan, because we were on our high and mighty horse. We had David Carr. We were 6-0 in 2001, and thought we were going to the freaking BCS national championship.
Yeah.
And then we go to Hawaii that year, and they freaking humble us and ruin essentially any hopes we had. You were there when Aloha Stadium was rocking, right? What were those?
Brace yourselves for The Kicker's Bible. The Kicker's Bible, a specialist how-to manual born from a decade of dedication to specialists and special teams. This ain't your average football book. It's the holy grail of gridiron guidance. Dive into the wisdom of over 20 NFL specialists, including Eagles Hall of Famer David Akers and 15-year NFL vet and kicking guru Shane Graham, as they answer your burning questions to become the best specialist that you can possibly be. Whether you're a Pee-wee rookie or an NFL veteran, this book is your secret weapon to kicking success. It's out now. Go to www.icemankicking.com/books or our Twitter bio @IcemanCoaching or Amazon and search The Kicker's Bible to get your copy today. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Now kick your feet up and let's get back to one cold episode.
Oh yeah. It was awesome, man. Those are some of my fondest memories of, seeing Chad Owens taking punts back versus BYU and the kickoff return too. And, Leonard Peters and, my dad had unbelievable offensive line there year in and year out. Vince Monowai, Samson Satele, Tala, Sarah, the list goes on and on and on, but just like all those memories of those guys. And then you got the Devon Best, Jason Rivers, Ryan Grice-Mullins, Colt Brennan, Timmy Chang, Nick Rolovich, all those guys. Like, that was who I grew up watching there. And I probably didn't realize at the time how special it was, but man, it was so much fun. And then I remember too, Chad Owens was probably like one of my favorite players growing up, and like just watching him do something. And then as a little kid, I'd be like, I'm Chad Owens. I'm taking punts back and doing all that. And man, it was awesome. Just looking back on it, I haven't really got to appreciate it and look back on it until you just brought it up. But it was special, man. And kind of like I was saying, I got some great friends that I grew up with out there, that I still talk to this day. And I love Hawaii, man. I consider that home, and the people out there are the best. The food's awesome, and then it's paradise. You got the beaches and all that stuff. It's tough to beat.
Well, yeah. What more could you ask for growing up, right?
Yeah, it was it was awesome. I didn't know anything else too. I'm like, this is it, baby. This is it.
Well, I will say too, yeah, like I said, growing up a Fresno State fan and growing up around here, I mean, those Hawaii teams were sick, man. I remember Timmy Chang and Hawaii, and even like those gray helmets with Colt Brennan and
yeah.
And with the different design on there. I always thought those were the coolest jerseys. I remember going in August.
The tattoo on the leg and the sleeve, I always thought those were sweet too.
That and then every year it seemed like they were playing USC or Washington in August, and you're like, oh man, so excited. College football's here and Hawaii's on. I hope they beat those freaking Pac-12, because we hated the Pac-12. Well, not hate them, but we were always trying to upset them, the Fresnos and the Boise's and Hawaii's. But that's the other thing too. Those guys were so damn good, man, and Boise was so damn good. Even today, I get a bad taste in my mouth when I think of Hawaii and Boise State. Those colors of both those schools, make me sick. But I will say, one of my fondest memories from when I was playing was in 2016, and we're at UT Martin, and we got to play Hawaii in Aloha, and they beat us. It was close. It was like 36-31. We were winning at one point, and they came back and won in the end. But man, I remember stepping on that field being like, man, these were all these legends like you talked about. But and that's the other thing too, Blair, I think that people don't talk about enough is, people that don't know football want to say, oh, you're a coach. I'm sorry. Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to have a family? How are you going to have a wife and kids because you're in the office so much? But I'm sure to you, going to those events, going to those certain games and those experiences of being in the, the clubhouse or whatever, the athletic facilities, you got to grow up with your, not, I won't say idols, but like all those Hawaii football players were stars in your eyes, right? And you got to have direct contact with them.
Yeah. I wouldn't have changed it for the world. And every coaching staff's different, but they were very family oriented there. So we were going to every practice and every home game and all that. So I got to be around my dad quite a bit, and he'd come home for dinner and then go back to the office. But it was pretty special. Then on top of that too is I got to play there in college twice at Aloha Stadium. So that was pretty cool too, and surreal and kind of a full circle moment. That was always a place where I wanted to play. So being able to do that was pretty freaking cool too.
Yeah, I bet that was crazy. I remember going to the bathroom being like, you guys, you know what? Tom Brady peed in the same urinal.
Yeah, that's right.
So then, I'm sorry, I had to get off on that tangent. But
You're good.
Those Hawaii days, man, were freaking, and you were there in the thick of it when they were elite. I remember, were you guys there when they played Georgia in the Sugar Bowl?
We left the year before was our last year there. So we went to Oregon State after that.
That's right.
So we weren't there for the undefeated season, but we were there before. So
all the other freaking really cool years. Okay, so then we're going from Hawaii, now we're talking about Corvallis. How was Corvallis?
Corvallis was awesome. So I moved to Corvallis in 6th grade. My dad got the job at Oregon State. And so I went middle school through college in Oregon. So that's also home. Some of my best friends are from Oregon that I grew up with, and got to play football, basketball, and baseball with them all the way middle school through high school. So that's special. And my family's back in Oregon now. My brother, his wife, and my nephew live in Salem, and then my dad and mom live in Junction City, which is about 20 minutes outside of Eugene now. So it makes summer vacation awesome and winter vacation awesome, just having everyone in one place, and getting to go back home too and see some of my best friends. So I love it. And Oregon in the summers, it's tough to beat. You got all the rivers, lakes, and greenery and all that. It's awesome.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous,
It's
right?
best.
So then from there, talk a little bit. Did you go from there to Oregon State did you do your high school days in Corvallis?
Yeah. So I went to Corvallis High School, and then I walked on at Oregon State, when was that? 2012, walked on there. And then, kind of just put my nose to the grindstone and just worked. And so I played there 3 years. Was a first year didn't play, was on scout team, did all that stuff. Second year, kind of the same team, but made travel roster and all that. And then that third year played as a, backup receiver, as the number 2, and then played on some special teams for them. And then, I just wanted to play a lot and have a significant role. Then I transferred to Portland State, for the last 2 years there. And, we had a little bit of success my junior year, and then the senior year wasn't as good as I wanted it, but looking back on it, you kind of remember more of the memories with your friends and stuff like that instead of the wins and losses. You remember more of the laughs and the good times that you had, and some tough times, but that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. And definitely those emotions of those times, those times shape you as a person, as a player, as a coach. Talk a little bit. I think you kind of hit on it, but you were a small, undersized white receiver. And you talked about that struggle, which I can identify with.
Yeah.
Not the receiver part, but all the other parts. And talk about the struggle, but a lot of people don't understand, if they haven't been around or maybe they haven't played at the Division 1 level. What's that struggle like being a walk-on, trying to make it on the travel squad, trying to make it on special teams? Like, what did you have to go through? What was the toughest part about that?
I think you had to have a chip on your shoulder. Um, that was definitely how I went into the building every day. Especially being a walk-on, and then your dad's one of the coaches too, so you got both those things against you. So I went in there trying to prove people wrong every day, just with my work ethic, and kind of doing all the extra stuff that you can, off the field and on the field, and meeting with coaches extra. What can I do? Can I get on special teams? What do I got to do to play as a receiver? All the extra stuff. And then, a lot of that, you end up meeting with the GAs and QCs and stuff. And, they take you under their wing. Like I remember, Brad Brennan was our assistant receiver coach there. It was Coach Brennan's little brother, and he was awesome, and took me under his wing, and would do extra workouts with me and extra footwork stuff with me. And then Aaron Nichols was another guy that would do that with me. And then Coach Brennan was an unbelievable receiver coach, probably one of the best around in my opinion. So I learned a bunch from him. So taking what he taught us too, and then going out there and doing it on your own and trying to perfect that drill, or perfect that route. And then you can't do enough extra footwork and catching, and then studying, and it was complex, the offense that we did there. It was a pro style offense under Coach Riley, so being able to learn not just one position, but learn the whole scheme as a whole. So if the X went down, I could jump in at X. If the slot went down, I could jump in at slot. If the Z went down, I could jump in at Z. So just making yourself valuable in those aspects, instead of just knowing one position, know the whole thing. So they know that it, and feel comfortable throwing you in there if something happens. So that was kind of how I looked at it too. Like I gotta know everything, and then I gotta play on special teams too. So whatever Coach Reed needed, I was gonna do. And a lot of times those first 2 years was scout team, but I'm gonna bust my ass on scout team and do a good job on that. So hopefully one of those coaches sees and knows that you're going to do a good job and give good effort.
Yeah, and I think so doing those little things, right? Doing the extra ladders, the extra footwork, meeting with your coaches, extra weight room stuff, and knowing all the different positions, that helps you carry over into coaching too. Like, hey, I'm not afraid to do other things. Like even for me, being a coach, I mean, I'm just now realizing like, hey, don't just be a special teams guy. Like learn offense, learn wide receivers, tight end stuff. And maybe that's because when I played, it was like, hey, I was a 43 game consecutive starter. Now I did it at a little bit of a different level as you did. I was at a Division 2 and then, FCS Division 1 level. So I wasn't playing in the Power 5 level, but for me, it was like, hey, let's just get really good at this one skill. And I don't think that's something that I'm working on now. Like, hey, I'm trying to be a utility guy and learn everything, which is kind of what you learned in your experience. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with that.
No question. And then you talked a little bit about, playing for your dad and, coming from a high school level to college and your dad's there. Like what, how'd you handle those pressures or expectations that come with being a son of a college coach? How do you balance that?
Well, first and foremost, I thought it was awesome just being able to have that time back with him, when we're on the road recruiting and whatever else you're doing as a coach. But like being able to have that time back with him was so special. Like in between meetings or lifts, just going there and pop up in his office and say, what's up, Pops? How's it going? And just be able to shoot the shit a little bit. I thought it was special. And then, you know, the second part of that question was, you kind of like, almost you feel like you have a target on your back going in that situation, of having to do everything right, and not wanting to fail them or let your parents down. So I think you gotta just kind of grind it out, which I feel like I did a good job of there. But it was awesome. There's nothing I would change. And if you have an opportunity, someone listening to this to play for your dad, I would suggest it. It was awesome. And I actually got to coach with him a few years too. So that was pretty cool as well.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that too. What was that experience like working alongside him?
Oh, it was unbelievable. Kind of the same deal. Just being able to spend all that time, and then obviously you spend more time when you're coaching together. But being able to drive into work together and drive home from work together and kind of digest the day was pretty cool, and fond memories that, you know, my parents were my roommates out there for a little bit, which was awesome. But it was cool. It was a good deal being able to work for my dad.
Yeah.
And with him. So
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you guys have a really good connection. I think,
yeah.
you know, I love my parents. They've been phenomenal and very supportive of me. But I will tell you what, after living for 10 years on my own back east and coaching and then coming home to Fresno and moving in with them last year, after a month or two, I'm like, I got to get out of here. I got to find my own spot because this is a lot.
Yeah.
And they've
No,
got
it was
their
kind
way
of
to
cool.
live.
They had like the whole upstairs, and then there's a basement that was finished. So it's basically I have my own apartment. And then if I wanted food, I could go upstairs and eat that. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, you had it there and ready to go. So that's really awesome. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, from that, but talk about, well, the one thing I will say about that too is, and I noticed from being at UC Davis, and Dan Hawkins was the head coach, and he coached kind of everywhere at Boise State. He kind of helped build that program up, and then Colorado, and his son Cody was our offensive coordinator at Davis, and just
Yeah.
seeing them interact. There was days where they would piss each other off, you know, get on each other's nerves, but for the most part, man, like, you're right. Being the son, Cody had to, you know, because there's always going to be someone that says something, right? And no matter what you do, you could be the son of a coach, you could be just another normal coach, and if you have any status or position, people are going to say something about you. So you just got to be that much better. Just like you're saying, as the son of a coach, I think I really respected Cody Hawkins and all the work he put in, and how great of a coach he is. And he just signed a 5-year extension at Idaho State as their head
He's
coach.
done a good job. I got to know Cody a little bit. He's done an awesome job up there.
He's done an awesome job and just creating that excitement for that program. So I can kind of, you know, see where you're coming from in that perspective. So talk about now making that transition and kind of making a name for yourself. You know, you get into the coaching world. Well, first of all, how did you know this is something you wanted to do from seeing your dad? Was there any doubts? Was there any, you know, was there any other career paths that you looked at?
No, I was kind of all in on the coaching deal. I went to my undergrad was for human development and family science, which is counseling and education. But I knew I wanted to get into coaching when I did that, and then you kind of found out that undergrad came into use. You know, there's a little bit of counseling and coaching, and there's definitely some educating. So it's been a good deal and a good journey so far.
So you knew kind of right away. And then talk about kind of making your name. You know, you kind of did was it Nebraska to Syracuse, or did you?
I went
Ball State.
so I wasn't even really at Nebraska. I like helped out for their bowl game a little bit, and then went to the coaches convention after that, and met Coach New, who's the head coach at Ball State. He offered me a GA spot out there, so I was there working with receivers and quarterbacks for 2 years, and then on top of that, we all had a phase of special teams that we'd break down for the special teams coordinator. So that was kind of how I got introduced to it, was, you know, through Coach Doherty out there at Ball State. And then the funny thing on top of that was, you know, Lustig was at Ball State before I got there. Dino didn't want to hire me at Syracuse because my dad was a coach there. But Lustig wanted to hire me because he knew I was at Ball State and knew the system and knew the verbiage and knew that I would do a good job for him. So that was kind of how that whole transition went from Ball State to Syracuse.
Yeah, and Ball State, I mean, look at those special teams coordinators, right? Like Doherty's at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Lustig's at Penn State, like two of the premier programs in the country. It just shows the pedigree and, the stuff you learn from those guys is very valuable.
Yeah, they're awesome. And, there's no surprise where they're at right now with what they were doing at Ball State and how detailed both those guys are and, the energy and effort that they put in, and then their creativity and a scheme that they could put into stuff weekly and just absolutely get after people's ass was very impressive. And I learned a lot from both those dudes.
You think that's one of the things that separates them, that aggressiveness or way they get after teams and exploit their weaknesses? Is that one of the things that separates them, or what separates them from any of these other special teams coordinators?
They are both very intellectual and smart dudes. They know every nuance and ins and out of the game, where they're able to capitalize off of other people's mistakes when they see something. So they're two of the smartest dudes that I've been around. So I think that's definitely a piece to that. And then just how they're able to teach and get guys to play for them too is another huge aspect that gives them, the advantage.
I could see that for sure. Okay, so then now you're at Syracuse, like you said, you talked about working with your dad. What contributed to that, you guys having that success in 2020, or what kind of stood out about that season?
We had good players. It starts with having good players. You could do whatever scheme you want. We had good players, good buy-in, and they played hard. And I think that's what it comes down to. If you have good players and they're gonna play hard for you, you're gonna have some success.
Yeah, 100%. And so kind of we have different sections here, Blair, at the Iceman Podcast, right? And one of those sections is a Mythbuster section. Now I'm kind of just dropping this on you. Yeah, I know. Are you ready for the Mythbuster section presented by the Kicker's Bible?
I think I am.
Okay, so we're just going to sprinkle this in here organically. When we're talking about special teams, you could talk about, football in general. What is to you a fundamental that is often overlooked?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I'd probably say tackling, an open field tackle. That'd probably be one. You don't get a whole lot of work at it as a defensive guy, and then you certainly don't get any work at it as an offensive guy. So, being able to steal a, tackling period, whether it's pre-practice or post with all the guys that play on special teams, is I think a good skill and asset that you need to have as a core four type guy.
Yeah. 100%. That's a good one. All right. So then you move, I meet you guys have success at Syracuse. Tell us how that transition to Incarnate Word kind of happened.
Yeah, so that happened. We didn't have a great year that year. And then GJ got the job at Incarnate Word. So that third year at Syracuse, I ran it as a QC, off the field. And then we beat Liberty and played really well on special teams versus them. And I became good friends with Tanner Burns. After that, Tanner Burns and GJ are good friends. And so he kind of hit up GJ and was like, yo, you got to hire Cap. So that was how that went down. I didn't know GJ. I didn't have any Texas ties. So it was all Tanner Burns, kind of hooking that up. So thanks, Tanner. Appreciate it.
Shout out to Tanner. Yeah. And Tanner. I've definitely heard too, it's interesting. And there's a lot of guys that are always, kind of chasing jobs, but the advice I've gotten is like, hey, do a good job where you're at and you'll meet people and they'll voice, their opinions of you. So I think that's very important. I respect that. That's pretty cool that's how you transition there.
Yeah. It was kind of a godism type deal. It all worked out.
Yeah. Okay. So talk about now you're a first year special teams coordinator, what do you do coming in? How do you set the tone? What's your first thing that you do when you get this new position?
Yeah. I first got down here, I think the most important thing was just meeting with the guys, and starting to build those relationships with the specialists, and then just starting to build those relationships with the team, being around runs, being around workouts, having guys come in your office and just being able to build those relationships, and have them know that you care is just huge. And then, making special teams fun and making it competitive, which we do a good job of on a daily basis here. And I think bringing high energy, of, meetings and on the field and, coaching them hard and loving them hard. That was, what kind of created the buy-in here. And, once I got here, and we started to establish those things, the special teams culture here in Bayon's been unbelievable. It's been so much fun, and it's a blast to come to work every day and work with my specialists. They're an awesome group, and then the core guys as well. Just makes it so fun, and their buy-in's unbelievable, and the offensive linemen on field goal, their buy-in's awesome. They're in the meetings and all that, and they know all my verbisms and all that stuff, so they it makes it fun, and the buy-in's definitely there.
Yeah, that's so huge, creating that culture, right, where people want to embrace it and be a part of it.
Yeah.
What's one way, Blair, that you keep things fun and exciting? Like what's an example of how you keep these guys excited for meetings or excited to be talking special?
I think during during spring ball and fall camp, you gotta do stuff during those dog days to keep their focus there. So we'll kind of do a person of the day every day, and it'll be from the practice before, and it's whoever's doing a good job in the drills, whether it's competitive drills or just base fundamental drills, or they're doing a good job of the scheme that day. So they got to do it on all those, and then that next day we'll make them person of the day, and I'll pull up funny pictures from their Instagram of them, and then I let them pick the music for the day that day. And so they walk in, we got that cranked up, and then I show their good clips after that. So that they like seeing themselves doing things absolutely correct. And then I think they like having their pictures on there too, as well as seeing their clips. And then the other thing too is like tweeting it out and putting it on Instagram. The players like that for sure too.
Yeah, I think that's so huge, and those Instagram pictures never miss, man. I mean,
there's some gems.
I don't care how long you've been on Instagram or whatever, like you're gonna find a funny picture of someone wearing too many chains or too baggy of clothes, or just the wildest, posing with their dog in a weird way. I mean, there's some great stuff of these guys out there. I'm sure the players love it.
Oh yeah, and they know now too that like a lot of the guys will start taking stuff off their Instagram.
Start cleaning up. Was there one picture that stood out of someone?
Then you gotta look at the tagged pictures too.
Yeah. Oh, that's where it comes from. Was there one picture that stands out to you, Blair, where you're like, oh, we got this guy? Like the most embarrassing picture or funny picture of one of your players?
There was a bunch, because they had before I got here, they had a 4th of July lift, and they would all wear American flag stuff, but half the guys had cut jean shorts on. So there was a bunch of pictures of the guys in that you could roast them and put those up there. So probably one of those for sure.
Oh, that's gold. That's freaking gold. Yeah, anyone in jean shorts, you freaking. Hey, so talking a little bit about specialists too. I mean, you had two guys there, really, right? With Sterling and Nolan, who kind of set the standard in your eyes. I kind of want you to talk about their practice schedule and how you guys space things, because I'm assuming you're with them on a daily basis. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me kind of, how did you guys take it on a normal game week? All right. Take us through daily practices leading up to a game. You can start on Sunday or Monday, whenever you guys started.
So Sunday we were off. We would just meet and they would work out. Monday we were completely off. was a game plan day. Tuesday was our coverage units day. So, we'd hit field goals first and then go into a punt period, and then go into kickoff period. And, during those, after that punt period, we'd make corrections and stuff that we needed to do for punts. And then we'd hit that kickoff period and then kind of do the same thing after that. And then, going to the Wednesday practice, it'd be a return day. So that'd be more, you're focusing on the scout kickers, giving a good look for the return units that we needed, but we'd still hit field goals that period. Thursday was a Grandpa Thursday, called it, and basically you'd hit all four special teams type deals and kind of recap it for the week. And then Friday was a fast Friday where you'd kind of hit all four again.
Yeah. Did you have a set amount of kicks for them or a routine that you like to do with them?
Yeah, it could be anywhere from 12 to 14 punts. Depending on the punter, they could take all those reps or, split it up. Syracuse, they would kind of split it up. Here, my punters have wanted to take every single one of those reps, and I'm fine with that. As long as it's earlier in the week and not later. And then field goal wise, it could be anywhere from 5 to 6 kicks. It wasn't like a huge field goal period, and we were pretty up tempo with it. So they'd get their kicks with that, and then we'd hit more field goals after the fact with those guys when we needed to. So that was kind of our routine with it. And it worked, and the punters were kind of older at that time, so you weren't gonna hit a bunch of extra balls with them. So you'd kind of take a little bit off their leg once they were done with those periods, and then those Wednesdays, take it pretty easy for the most part.
Yeah. Was there a way to create competition with those guys? Was there any competition drills that you like doing or drills that you like doing with them that you think help prepare them for the next level?
That's a good question. There wasn't really any competition drills that we did. They just competed against each other and made themselves better. And that was kind of my first year coaching the specialists. And you got, Sterling Hoffrichter as the starting punter, and then Nolan Cooney is the number 2 that year. And I didn't realize how good they were at the time. And then they're hitting 5-0 punts, and then you kind of take it for granted once you move on from those guys. But no, we didn't really do any drills. They just kind of competed and were self-motivated guys that we didn't need to do that stuff.
Yeah. And you kind of hit on that too. I think sometimes where people go wrong with specialists is hey, they try to overcoach, especially someone like me with that background. It's I'm going to, fix this guy. I'm going to change this guy. It's
and that was one of those deals where I was learning more from those guys than I didn't know what I was doing at that time. I was a sponge absorbing from those guys too. You know what I mean? Yeah. So being able to pick those guys' brains and learn from them, I think was critical.
Yeah. What about their mindset? What separated them from, a normal specialist or average specialist that you've had before? Do they have mental cues? Do they have something they told themselves when they go on the field? What did you learn from them?
They were both in the big self-talk. For example, Nolan's deal was, he wanted to be short 2 and smooth through his punts. So that's what he would tell himself before he'd come in, short 2, smooth through, short 2, smooth through. Hey, Cap, can you remind me of this? Yeah, man, I got you. So, little buzzwords like that where you could focus on whatever you need to for that day, I think were crucial. So kind of learning their buzzwords, and then, being able to take those and bring them to, my guys too. I think it's been crucial. And another thing that's awesome too, and those guys are all awesome, is having them as a resource now. If I want one of my guys to talk to them, they're always like, hey, yeah, tell them to call me, whatever you need, tell them to call me, so using them as resources now has been awesome. I talk to them both a bunch still.
Yeah, that's cool. Having ex guys like that you can bounce ideas off of, and especially when it comes to that forte, that's freaking awesome. Hey, talk a little bit too about so I was thinking about this recently too. Carrier Dome, and obviously you guys don't play in the Alamo Dome, but that city that you're in, the Alamo Dome, right? Two football-sized stadiums that play basketball. Have you been to basketball games in both of those arenas?
I haven't been to one down here. I've been to a few games up in the Carrier Dome.
Yeah, what's that
Pretty
like? Do they
cool.
put a
Both pretty
big
cool.
curtain down, or what do they
No,
have?
so they do it. Did you ever play it in Syracuse?
We didn't. No.
Okay, so the side that the locker rooms are on, they put the basketball court on those sides. So both teams come out the opposite tunnels and the court's right there. Then they move stands to about the 50-yard line. So then it's about half the stadium, but you still have it all the way up. I was at when they played Duke 19 or 21, but it was like the largest college basketball game. I think it was like 30-something thousand that were there. It was pretty cool.
Crazy. And you said the other stands were on like the 50-yard line?
Yeah, so they move them in to the 50, and it's pretty cool.
Is there something? Are they permanent stands, or are they just like bleachers that
so they rotate to the back of the end zone, and then they rotate it out to the 50. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. It's another big. I love stadiums. We had the freaking CFB, the college football tour.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw you had them on. I gotta listen to that.
The stadium guy on. Yeah, and I mean, I could wig out and talk about stadiums and architecture like that stuff for days, but I think that's such a cool design when you can do that. Does it still stay loud in there, even though you have an open side?
Oh yeah, it's rocking. That's when they're playing well. That deal's rocking in there.
That's freaking cool.
It's one of the loudest ones.
That's so freaking cool. Okay, so yeah, so back to the Incarnate Word days there. Okay, so you're a new coach on a new staff, right? And you're this young guy. How do you create buy-in with the coaches now, not just the players, and gain respect from older coaches, who are maybe 20, 30 years your elder?
Yeah. I think kind of the same deal, showing them that you care, and then showing them your process of how you do things and your detail that goes into that. And then just being able to explain your scheme and your drills and being able to teach them. I think that creates buy-in, and it starts with, doing that with the head coach, and then the head coach making it important with the trickle down effect to all the other assistants. Was what I believe creates buy-in throughout coaches and truly the players too. If the head guy makes it important and he's in your meetings and he's helping out with drills and stuff, the players see that, and they know what's important. Which we've had with GJ and Clint.
Yeah, you guys have had a lot of success there. What's an example of that? Like when you got in a staff meeting or a special team staff meeting, right? And you're explaining, how did you thoroughly describe, hey, this is what we're doing this drill, or in this, whether there's a scheme drill or scheme.
I think it's diagrams that you have, so drawings, and then just your buzzwords and coaching points that you have on top of those, and then being able to show video and the evidence of technique showing up, and those guys being able to see that is what I think makes it important.
Yeah, that's huge. I think that's really cool, man. I think that's impressive when you can command a room, especially in a different type of setting. I know, especially just like you bounce around from place to place, it takes a while to kind of get comfortable in a new setting. So
yeah, no doubt,
being able to kind of command the room there in that way is huge. So when you're talking about culture of your team, your special teams unit, what do you guys take pride in when you walk out there? What do you want your special teams unit or your units to be known for?
I want us to be fast, violent, and physical. Like if we're on a coverage unit, I tell those guys to go hunt. I want them playing fearless. I want other teams to turn on the tape and they see our team playing, like, those guys play hard. They play relentless. Those things are big for me. So just being able to find the guys that will do that and cut it loose is huge. And we've had some success with that. We're going to try to continue to build off of it, but I think when you're flying around there and you're violent and you're physical, and it's not just kick off and punt, but we're getting underneath people's chins on kickoff returns blocks, and we're being the hammer, not the nail, or we're holding their ass up, and we're being aggressive with it. Just I think it's a culture as a whole, of those guys doing that. So I think that's definitely it.
Yeah, I love that. And that's something we like to say a lot too. That's Coach Baxterism. He likes to say is be the hammer, not the nail. Take that hurt to the other team. I think that's really good. You kind of hit on too when you're talking about, showing, the culture of caring and being with your guys, kind of give us an example too, like you're talking about. How do you show your guys that you care? How do you show, new players that you care?
Yeah. I think being able just to check in with them and having that open door where guys feel comfortable of coming in your office, and you're not just talking ball with them. You're talking real life stuff. How's your day going? How's your family doing? How'd you do on this test? Being able to have those conversations, I think are huge. And then I like having the guys over at the house and just grilling out and let them go in the pool and let them be around my family and Morgan and she takes care of them, and so just being able to have those relationships with those guys, and I think they really feel it when you do those things.
Yeah, meeting your family, being around, and like you said, not just in a football way, but an actual person to person way.
Yeah, like you don't want to just talk ball the whole time. You gotta have authentic, real conversations with those guys, and it's cool when you get guys from different position groups that want to come talk to you about real life stuff that's going on in their life, and that's pretty cool for me when I get to have those conversations with those guys, and hey Coach Cap, can I talk to you for a minute? I'm like, yeah man, come on, what's up? And then being able to just have those conversations with those guys, it's what it's all about. I kind of hit on that earlier. It's all about the relationships for me, and I really mean that. So it's the best part.
Yeah, no, I think that's the best part of special teams too, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean? You're not just coaching offense or defense. I'm, besides the head guy and the strength coach, I'm the only one talking to the whole entire team. So you get to have those relationships with everyone, which is cool, instead of just being the receiver coach or running back coach where you're just coaching that specific position.
Yeah, even their mannerisms and seeing how they operate on the field every day. I mean, you're not just watching, like you said, 8 or 10 guys. You're watching 80 to 90 guys move around the field, and utilizing all those guys to their athletic strengths, I think, is the best part of special teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's so cool. So we kind of talk a little bit about, what you guys are getting into with practice and structuring your practice. How do you mimic, not just for the specialists, but your special teams units, how do you mimic game situations, and like what's a good way to do that from unit to unit, or just in general?
I think, obviously giving them the looks that are going to give you problems or could give you problems is good to give those guys every week. And then showing looks that they've shown in the past to similar things that you do is also another good situation that you could give them. And then, kind of my Friday meetings, what I like to do is I make a cut up for all 4 phases, and I give the guys the call, and they stand up and they're talking through everything that's going on the screen. So I'm letting them talk. I say, hey, here's your guys' test right here. I want to hear you guys talking. I don't want to say a word. So being able to show them that, and we'll hit all 4 phases with it. So when the punt team's up, they're yelling out who they got, or the certain looks that we get. Same thing for kickoff. We're showing our kickoff coverage team when we're running down there, and they see their indicators, and they're yelling field right as they see it, or they're yelling boundary right as they see it. So being able to show those guys those different looks, and then have them show you the knowledge that they know, and that's been awesome. Like our Friday meetings are a great deal, and we kind of give the the keys to victory type deal, and then we get into the script, and they're talking and running the show.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I've seen a lot of different Friday meetings from, saying, what you believe in to going over different situations or showing all the different situations you could get in a game, or doing like doing Quizlet games. That's something we've done before, which I really like. But doing that situation, I really love that. And I'll take it one step further. Got this from Alan Tucker, my buddy, does special teams. You might know him too. But on Thursday, with his specialists, he'll write out a game script, and then they'll rep it, whether it's dry run, or with a Nerf ball or something, or actually do it, but going through a full script. I love that idea of putting players in game situations and having them think through and make decisions.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, that's really good. Really good. All right, Blair. Well, we've had an awesome episode here. We're coming down to our rapid fire section. Are you ready for the rapid fire section?
Fire away.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready for it, but let's go.
Hey, I've actually been having some good questions here. I like that I'm making you think. It's kind of fun.
It is good. Definitely
All
making me think.
All right. So, you don't have to go too in depth. You can go as in depth or not as in depth as you want, but we're going to go fast, and I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions.
You want like one word answers?
Yeah, you can, or you can elaborate on it too.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's whatever you feel comfortable with. Okay. And we kind of talked about some of this stuff briefly, but first of all, tell us about the best piece of advice your father gave you from a football or coaching perspective, and then a personal perspective.
Personal perspective, just that he was always going to be there for us, and kind of wanted us to do the right things at all times, and then kind of set an example of himself doing it. So it's been easy to follow. Coaching advice, and I've kind of taken this from him, and really believe it. But coaching your players hard, and then loving them hard too.
Yeah, coach them hard, love them hard. I love that. Talk about, since we're kind of on the family, subject here, you've kind of seen it from him. How do you plan to balance your work life, your family life, and learning from his perspective? How are you going to do that?
Yeah, I think putting your family first is the biggest thing with that. You're going to get fired in football, but your family's going to be there. So you got, putting them first, being able to go to your kids' games or recitals or whatever they got going on is big. And both my parents were always there at my games.
Yeah.
And that was special. And being able to have dinner together and holidays and traveling together. So putting your family first, which both my parents have done.
Yeah, that's sweet. I love that. What do you think about adversity? Okay, how have you faced adversity in your life and in coaching in general?
Well, I faced adversity. I got fired at Syracuse, so that was kind of my welcome to coaching. But I think trusting God, I think, was a big thing for me. My mom and dad are both devout Catholics, but my mom would always say, keep the faith. Keep the faith, keep the faith. And it's hard to keep the faith sometimes, but you gotta try to keep the faith, and it all kind of works out where you're supposed to be, which it did with me here, and I ended up in a great spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping the faith is huge. I'm actually a Catholic too. I just need to go to church more on Sundays, but
Same.
yeah, same for real, especially during the season. Okay, so talk a little bit about is coaching everything you've dreamed of, and what's the harsh reality of coaching?
Yeah, it's been awesome, and I think it's definitely everything that I've dreamed about. So that part's been really special. And like I kind of hit on earlier, being able to have those relationships, not only with players, but great friends and coaches that you meet along the way, has been awesome. What was the other part of harsh reality of it?
Yeah, what's the harsh reality of coaching?
You're gonna get fired. You're gonna have to move, and that stinks. but it's kind of part of the job, and you're able to live in cool spots and meet great people because of that, which I think's, so rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think I already know the answer to this question, but I would say I'm a mix of coaches I've worked under, like Mike Bloomgren, Dan Hawkins, even John Baxter. Who are you a mix of, and what's influenced you and your coaching methods?
I always thought I was gonna be like that laid back coach that doesn't yell or go crazy or anything. But I definitely turn it on a little bit, which I'm not always proud of, but it slips out. I'd say I'm a mix of probably my dad, because I've got to watch him my whole life, and learn from his goods and his bads, coaching wise. And then, I think you take things that you like from every coach that you've been around, and then you take things that you don't like from every coach that you've been around, and then you kind of make it your own. So I've taken stuff from everyone that I've been around, going back to my high school basketball coach. That was an awesome coach that I learned a bunch from. So being able to take little things that you like from everyone and kind of make it your own, which I've done. But my dad's definitely had a big influence on that, and how to treat people and relate to people, and how to coach people hard and get them to respond. And then, like I hit on earlier, to love them hard too, so they know that you care. You're not just yelling at them, but you're bringing them in your office, and you're having them over at your house, and showing them that you care.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I've learned or am learning too, is like loving a player doesn't always mean you're just, saying positive, encouraging things to them.
Yeah.
It's coaching them hard and getting after them and showing them that this is the standard. And if you want to be great, holding them to that standard, that's also loving them hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Last two. We're down to the final two. Okay. What is one of the most crazy stadiums or games that you've ever been to, been a part of, coached at? Could be any of those.
One of the coolest stadiums I played at was North Dakota State 2 years ago. It was a blizzard there. My family was supposed to come to the playoff game, and they canceled all flights going in there. But the Fargo natives sold that puppy out, and that stadium was rocking.
Really?
It was the loudest stadium I've ever played at, and I've played in some big stadiums.
Pac-12, coached in the ACC, and Fargo was the biggest, craziest.
That was the loudest stadium for sure. Wow. And they're right on top of you. It was like a mix of playing at Odson, which is where Oregon's at, and then playing in a dome, like the Carrier Dome. So it was on top of you, and then it was loud. It was a fun. We ended up losing by 3 points, but that was a fun atmosphere. That was definitely one of the cooler stadiums that I've played at.
That's really nice. That's really cool. I love off the wall answers like that. And then, if you were to, give advice, start with the player first too. Any young high school player that was maybe like you, maybe a specialist, what's your advice to them trying to make it at the Division I level or the FCS level, or even make it as a walk-on? What's your advice?
Yeah. My advice would be just put your head down and work. Put in the work. Don't be one of those guys that's just tweeting out stuff all the time. Work, just work, and that's going to show up. And then being a good teammate, you know what I mean, and being good in the building that you're in, because you're going to do your research, and you're going to talk to those coaches and people that work at the school to find out if that person is a good person. But I think work ethic in the classroom and on the field is what will separate yourself in the long run. That'd kind of be my advice. Just put your head down and go to work.
Yeah, be a worker. Be known for that. That's freaking awesome. All right, Blair. Well, hey, man, you made it through the gauntlet. You did it. You handled the rapid fire section very well. I will say that. Anything you got going on? Anything you want to plug right now? Any talks, clinic talks, or anything you're doing?
Nothing going on. Nothing going on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, yeah, we'll definitely be following you, following your career. With people want to get in touch with you, where can they follow you on social media or Twitter at?
My Twitter is at CoachCav10. That'll be a good place to follow me. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. Hey, we appreciate you. Any last words for the pod, for the Iceman pod?
No, I appreciate you having me on, man. You're the best around. I appreciate our relationship, man.
No, I appreciate you, man. That's definitely helped get me through some tough times there, and just that constant communication. You know, it's good to have people like you in the business, and who are real and authentic. So, all right, well, we're signing off here. That's been Coach Cavanaugh, special teams coordinator at Incarnate Word.
Thanks for listening, and make sure you give us a follow or a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Music if you're so inclined to do so. For any questions or suggestions on further guests, follow us at Iceman Coaching on Twitter or on Instagram, and check out our website, icemankicking.com, for updates and new talks and podcasts. Check out our TikTok for the best clips of the newest episodes. Tune in next week for another awesome guest. I'm Brett Arkelian, and for everyone at the Iceman Podcast, so long and stay cool under pressure.
Roll another one cause I'm winning in my photo.